Welcome everyone to this Standardization Co-creation workshop organized together with MobiSpaces, NeMo.Bil and TANGO. I'm Roberta Fabrizi from the MobiSpaces project. I will be introducing the workshop today, but of course then I will leave the floor to our experts and our project representatives here today. So just some housekeeping very quickly. The workshop will be recorded and made available to all participants as a private link on YouTube. We kindly ask you to remain muted when presentations are being given. And if you have any upcoming questions during the presentation, to put them in writing using the chat function or the Q&A control panel. Should you have any questions, we can address them at the end of the presentations or during the sort of open discussion moment at the end of the workshop. If you would like to ask any questions verbally, just make sure to raise your hand. But there's not that many of us here, so there shouldn't be too much chaos on that front. When speaking, if you haven't already been introduced, we kindly ask you to say your name and company so that we all know exactly who you are and where the question is coming from. Next slide, please, Rita. Thank you. So this is the agenda for today. We have a couple of hours together. Of course, I will, as I've already done the introductions, and then we will pass the floor to our colleague Jerno from FIWARE for some opening words regarding FIWARE and the word of standardization. And then we will pass the floor to the projects, so the MobiSpaces project, the NeMo.Bil project, and the TANGO project with our project representatives. And at the end, we will have an open discussion on standardization recommendations, and then some concluding remarks. So without further ado, I will pass the floor to Jerno from FIWARE. Jerno, welcome. If you would like to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit more about FIWARE. That would be great. Thank you.
Yes, somehow I expected my part a little bit later, so you find me a little bit astonished, but no problem. I cannot share my screen, but of course, just some words.
We can allow you to share your screen if you would like. Would you like to share some slides?
Is it about me, just 2 minutes, or is it the part about FIWARE?
So what we originally thought was that you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about FIWARE as a sort of to set the scene a little bit for the workshop. Is that okay?
The sharing rights, please.
Sure, absolutely. Peter, maybe we can sort the sharing rights for...
Jerno, you should be able to share the screen now. Can you please check?
Yes,
okay.
Now I can.
Perfect. Okay.
Now I can. So you see my screen in full?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you.
Full screen, yes?
Yes.
So Gernot Böge, my name, FIWARE Solution Architect. FIWARE Foundation is headed in Berlin. Yeah, I had some very broad helicopter slides available. This gives you an opportunity to learn about what we do. And please don't hesitate to ask, where's my mouse? Where's my mouse? Here's my mouse and there's my mouse. Okay, good. Because what is FIWARE? FIWARE is pretty versatile. Actually, you cannot answer this in 2 or 3 sentences because FIWARE is a real ecosystem. Yeah, so we have a bubble for many different kinds here. So FIWARE, first of all, originally is open source software components that were developed in projects by taxpayer money, and the foundation was founded to promote them, to make them ongoing, and to spread the word. And so we have members who help us doing that, and we are a non-for-profit organization. So all we do is open source, no money for us, but we have a member organization. They can take our products and can make products out of it, and they can also sell it. We are not allowed because we are non-for-profit by law. We are not allowed to sell. So it's a community. We also have an iHub system, so we grow in having local dependencies, local branches in some countries, and we are growing with that so that we are not only existing in the internet, but also have the opportunity to meet people, and not we, but our network. And so it's members, it's resources, it's open source projects, and it's a lot. So I don't have to tell everything, but it's a lot. So having a 1-sentence answer is pretty hard to say. Good. So what is FIWARE? FIWARE is basically, and this is the origin, about digital twin data. So it's about our core component is a context broker, and it's context information. Context information is describing the world. Where is the bus? How full is the trash can? How full is the bar? And how far away is the train station for the bus, and when it will arrive. So it's a digital representation of the world around us, and it's for sharing information, and it's a broker component that can take data, can share data, can use different IT patterns like synchronous requesting for data, but also pub-sub mechanisms where you can also make something like geofencing. Yeah, inform me if my delivery car is entering this area, and then something happens. So it's basically simple in its description, but it's pretty powerful what you can do with it. So it's about description of the world around us, context information, and this is also something that we are standardizing. So it's not a FIWARE standard, it's an ETSI standard, and it was just part of the CIG, so the context interest group, and has now been promoted to a technical committee. So this we talk about standardization. So it's about data sharing of context information from one partner to another or to multiple, without abstracting the sources where the data come from. And so data sharing and the standardization of this, we see it inevitable that it must be standardized. So we come later to data spaces, we come to data planes. There is no broad activity to make standardization, and the reality is that we have interoperability, that you cannot just plug and play. And so this is what we do. We try to have a meta standard, and at least for the context information. So this is an evolution part. When you enter FIWARE, you can build a very easy solution in the very beginning. So you can make it a student project where you can measure your CO2 measurements in your backyard. So this is a very easy solution. Then you can grade it with other domains like I don't know, your filling level of your fridge or the trash cans, or different data from different domains, from different vertical integrations. And then in the third phase, you can become bigger, you can become part of a data ecosystem, and you can share data. Again, data spaces, sharing, secure, trustful data sharing in data spaces with sovereign participants. For that, we have an architecture, a lot of components I must not explain in full, but in the south, you have the real world. You can sense information with sensors, and you can give back information with actuators like signs or displays or something. In the middle, the dark blue is the context broker. This is our context broker that handles all the data management, where it goes to, who shall have what, who can see what. And in the north top, we have the intelligentsia. So you have BI, business intelligence, artificial intelligence applications that are not part of our, because there are experts out there, but we give them information, we give them data, and we receive often calculated and enriched data back, so that the context broker again can make the management who can receive what information. So this is a processing, and in the end, it's a digital loop that you say, okay, we have a real occurrence of something in the real world, we process it, we learn something from it, and then we spread the new information. And so it's a reactive cycle of information going back and forth between systems, components, and the real world. And on the right, you can see this is our FIWARE data space components. We have it in a second, and this is not a very long monologue, so don't be afraid. This is the technical components. I said we have much more. We are also one of the drivers of the smart data initiative, smart data models, because it's not only how you exchange data, but also how you describe your data. Because if you say you have a data point in your payloads that says streets in Germany or in England internationally, and then you go to Spain, you have calles, they do not match. So it's often important to have standard models, how you describe your data, that you can easily, in the best case, immediately process data from other sources, and you can cooperate and interoperate. So this is our initiative, where we have multiple domains already there. This is a GitHub project, so everybody can contribute. It's very open, it's collaborative, it's quick, it's agile. So it's not working 3 years on a waterfall implementation of everything, but you can start small with what you have in your project. You can start online. You can check what is already there. You must not be paying members. So it's a focus of agility. And then we have data, we have described it correctly, and then we want to share it. For that, we have a technology piece of software that's on the right side with a red rectangle around. It's the FIWARE Data Space Connector. This is our component in the, you can almost say a little bit the connector war these days, because this is an ongoing battle, at least competition. This is our software component that we are developing in our community that should connect the data space, the investments that our community members have made in fiber technology, to make it easy to bring this into data spaces so that you can securely and trustfully exchange it there. And therefore, I have copied this from our GitHub. You can see the address up there. It's about standards. We are here talking about standards, EPSI standards for the European blockchain standardization interface, I think. W3C for the identification and the verifiable credentials. We have open digital right language for the description of policies, our ETSI NGS ILD standard for the data plane for describing the context information, and some TIM forum APIs. So standardization is important for us, because no, you cannot we have many-to-many connections, and you cannot get into negotiations anytime and build your systems. Then you have projects 4-6 weeks for each customer or each connection, and this is not okay these days anymore. We need productivity. And because this is also a European aspect, of course. So we have the initiatives, we have the multiple common European data spaces. We are active in several of them where you can see the logos. I am in mobility and also in the smart cities data spaces. So they want to exchange data across Europe. We still have the non-standardization situation. So we have no non-accepted standards these days. So this is important for us. And it's currently in a very unsolved situation, because it's a discussion whether natural persons are first-class citizens who can act independently in data spaces. And so this is in the standardization an important question at the moment, because the ISO standard is being prepared with the Eclipse data space working group. And so they, with the underlying specifications, they say it's machine only. So they exclude natural persons as first-class citizens. So you must be an employee of a company or a registrant of a city or something, but you cannot act independently. So standardization is ongoing, so it's getting better, but we are not there yet. And we are also fighting for the European standards, and so far. And that was it. So we do data exchange. You can start small, it's open source, it costs nothing. You can scale big. You can start to exchange data in old-fashioned traditional way, but also data spaces. We have data models to describe your data, and in the end, you are hopefully, and I've seen Tango is here in the project. I have learned from the past that they are using or planning to use FIWARE Data Space Connector in their project, but this is only something I know from the far. This was my monologue. Questions, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jerno. That was incredibly interesting, and it's great to have you here. I think it's very important to see where standards are being applied, but also where there's a lack of standards, and where, identifying the areas where standards are lacking is absolutely essential. And the thing that sticks out to me the most is, of course, metadata tag, standardizing metadata and all of that. But if there are any questions from the floor for Jerno, please let us know. Otherwise, Rita.
Yes, if I may, Roberta, I have a question. I also agree with Roberta, that your presentation was extremely interesting. I have actually a question related to the standards that you have used for the smart data models. Because let's say it is more a curiosity. I actually wanted to know if you have actually built new standards to develop these smart data models, or if you have used existing ones.
It's a bit of both. because there are some areas where there were no existing standards. Then you build something new, and you best start not with an "I wish everything" situation, because then you think of it 3 years, and in the end everything else changes, and so the approach is to be able to work agile, collaboratively online with all these GitHub mechanisms that software developers can work with pull requests and issues and discussions and stuff like that. And so where you have nothing already, you build from scratch. When you have something like, what was it for? If there are existing data models, then they should not be reinvented, but they should be integrated. So that's a core idea, not repeating ourselves, but it's a representation of data models in different ways. You can have it in RDF, you can have it in CSV, you can have it in JSON. So it's everywhere available. It's in written words, descriptive, and if there is something available in some domains, then those data models should be integrated into this unique surface and portal. There are tools available that you can easily start with an Excel sheet, and then you can generate, and then it will be incubated. And so it's a real moderated, not really moderated like we forbid you doing things, but moderated that it ends up in a standardized and unique way that people can just work with the smart data models.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions for Gernot before we move on?
Good.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Gernot, once again. And we'll come back to you maybe at the end when we have the open discussion. You've given us a lot of great points to start off with. Thank you very much. I will now leave the floor to my colleagues from MobiSpaces, Valentina Buttol from GFT and Rita Giuffrida from Trust IT Services, for an overview of the MobiSpaces project. As you know, you said you have an interest in smart cities and mobility. So I think you're in the right place in that sense. We'll have a lot to talk about in this respect. Over to you, Valentina and Rita.
So hi everyone, and thank you, Roberta, for the introduction. I'm Valentina Buttol from GFT, which is the coordinator of MobiSpaces, and I will give you a quick overview of our project, MobiSpaces. So over the past 3 years almost, we've been building a mobility-aware, mobility-optimized data governance platforms that helps manage and process the data in a way that is AI-powered, but also privacy preserving and aligned with green and trustworthy practices. So the idea behind MobiSpaces is to enable a holistic and responsible approach to mobility data, covering everything from how we gather the data from the sensor and devices to how we process it, so extract insights, ensure security, fairness, and sustainability throughout the whole data pipeline. So the platform itself is built on 3 key pillars. As you can see, we have the AI-based operation toolbox, which supports both real-time and batch data processing, including declarative querying, online data aggregation, and smart anomaly detection. Then we have the Edge Analytics Suite, which brings artificial intelligence and federated learning directly to the edge, so closer to where the data is generated. And finally, the data governance platform itself, which ensures that all the data passing through the system is basically curated, fair, and protected with advanced access control. So basically what we do is trying to enable a mobility data space through a connector, and we do so via the platform. Okay, so that was possible thanks to the efforts of 25 partners overall. As you can see, we have all different kind of partners and players. We have the big corporation, but we also have research centers, and the whole consortium has been really valuable. So also MobiSpaces as a project started in September 2022 and will finish at the end of the next month, so August 2025. So to test and showcase what the platform can do, we've implemented 5 use cases across both urban mobility and maritime domain. So in urban mobility, we have iRoute, which is led by MT in Genoa, and is focused on electric bus fleet management. So through predictive management and data-driven scheduling, we are helping MT to reduce their operational costs and also to improve their service quality. Then we have the Smart Sense, which is led by Bosch in the Thessaloniki, which uses smart sensor to monitor traffic emission, but also air quality. So by integrating this data into the MobiSpaces platform, the city can simulate the traffic scenarios. And of course, they can design more sustainable mobility policies. Then we have the maritime domain, where we have Marine Traffic Tracker by Kepler to detect dark vessels, so reducing also data traffic and increasing the vessel detection accuracy. Then we have Vessel Edge, which is developed by Frequentis mainly, which brings edge computing on board of vessels to overcome the limits of the satellite communication. And here we use federated learning and data compression to optimize the maritime awareness. And finally, we have crowd sea mapping, which is led by the Danish Geodata Agency, which applies federated learning to integrate bathymetric data into the nautical charts. So one of our biggest achievements, in my opinion, has been the recognition from the European Commission, which has included 6 of our innovation in the EU Innovation Radar, highlighting their high potential for market impact. So this includes MobiEdge, our edge-based analytics engine, TriParket, a high-efficiency format for trajectory data, federated learning for vessel routes, anomaly detection using federated AI, smart resource allocator to manage AI workflows, and a powerful trajectory algorithm library. So we are really proud because we can say we have really a strong impact across Europe. As you can say, we've been dealing with curating relationship with standard and legislation bodies. We have involved more than 15 authorities and impacted more than 60 organizations. And we reached an impact on over 60,000 of citizens, mainly through our use cases. You can just think of the impact of the use case of the Thessaloniki cities and on the citizens living in that area. And then we have, of course, the big community of researchers that is the engine of our progress. So with that, I'd like to conclude my overview. And now I leave the floor to Rita. So over to you, Rita.
Thank you, Valentina. I will now focus on the work that MobiSpaces has done on in the area of standardization, because I mean, as you can imagine, we have already got the example before from FIWARE. To build this big platform, but also the use cases, we need also to follow different rules in order to make sure that we use both, let's say, data and standards. And I would like to start this presentation by highlighting the 4 main goals that we had, let's say, also identified at the very beginning of the project. And these are, let's say, mostly related to the fact that it is very important for MobiSpaces to identify standards, but then at the same time also to make sure that the work that we are doing is also promoted to standardization bodies. I have to say that at the very beginning, this part was pretty challenging because also, let's say, liaising with SDOs is not always easy, but then I can also show you in the next slide how we overcome this initial challenge that we faced. Then another important objective for us is also to make sure that all the standardization processes that we develop are also taken upstream to the open source communities. And for this, we are very happy to have also FIWARE that we might also see if in the future, I mean, there could be also some opportunities to see how these platforms could be potentially integrated. Then we also have to make sure that our work adopts relevant global standards, and then I mean, this is actually also related a little bit to what I was mentioning, that I mean, we are also making sure that we cooperate with open source and standardization communities. With this, I mean, I was mentioning that one of the issues that we got was that, let's say, we were identifying the standards, but then we had an issue, let's say, in also making sure that the SDOs, international and European SDOs, were aware of the work on MobiSpaces. So what we did was actually to try to get in contact with experts working mostly in IEEE and Sensenelec. And I mean, I can also provide an overview of what we did. We started by identifying, let's say, being in contact with 3 experts from the MobiSpaces consortium that are already members of SDOs. And these are our colleague Mahmoud Sacre, that is part of the Open Geospatial Consortium. Then Thomas Groppel, then instead was an advisory member of the L-band Digital Aeronautical Community System, TROICAO and EuroCAE. And then we have also Nita Grasser, that instead is part of the Austrian Standards International Committee. So these were, let's say, our members already in the MobiSpaces consortium that were already in contact with mostly national SDOs, and let's say also European ones, international, but and then I mean through them we also started to understand what were the, let's say, potential overcomes that we had to let's say potential issues that we had to overcome, also to make sure that our work would be further exposed to international let's say standardization bodies. So what we did actually following this was to get in touch with one expert that is called Ralph Mueller. We got in contact with him through the application of a project that is called HS Booster. This is the European the EU-funded standardization project that helps EU-funded projects to get in touch with standardization bodies or experts. And this is actually what they did for us. So through Ralph, we also got in contact with 3 other experts that are Renaud Di Francesco, Alessio Tartaro, and, oh, sorry, here I have Renaud written twice. I'm sorry for that. They're actually from Sensenelec, and they are, Renaud is from the committee that is related to artificial intelligence, while Alessio was more related to AI ethics at European international level. So they also helped us a little bit understand what is the ecosystem of standards that in MobiSpaces we could apply either in the AI, but also in the AI ecosystem, but also following ethics, as this is also a very important topic for us as we deal with a lot of sensitive data. So following this, we actually also, let's say, started to identify different standards and prototypes that we could apply either to the use cases or to the innovation radar that Valentina was presenting before. Here you can see that actually Valentina was presenting 6, but here we have just 5 in this chart. It is because actually the federated learning, it is strongly linked to the anomaly detection. So the work that was done for the federated learning is also the one that was done for the anomaly detection. I will just briefly mention the standards that were used to build them, so that I mean you can have just an idea of the who they are. For example, for MobiEdge, we have implemented Rust. For Trash Parquet, instead the Apache Parquet, that instead is an open source columnar data format. For the federated learning, instead, we use an international standard that is the ISO 6709. That instead helped also to better, let's say, coordinate all the reference systems. For the trajectory algorithm, here again, we use the international standard that is ISO 19141-2008, that instead provided some geographic information for moving features. And for the last one, that is a smart resource allocator, instead it was built on, let's say, on different data serialization formats that could also better exchange data and mechanisms, let's say, in this way. Then something that we also started to do is also to identify different standards for the use cases. And you can see that here we started to identify different for the 5 use cases that Valentina was presenting before. And this exercise also helped us to understand what are the relevant standards, but at the same time, what are also the most relevant working groups we could be in contact with. We managed to get in contact also only with ISO and IEEE, but because I mean they were the standards that were most used or proposed, but in addition to this, we also saw that, for example, also, let's say, for a follow-up or in the future, it would be very important for us also to get in contact, for example, with ETSI, with some working groups that were not, we did not manage to get in contact with, let's say, during the lifetime of the project, but that could be useful to do in the future. Also, a couple of words about the ethical principles. As we were mentioning, we are also dealing with quite a lot of data, some of which are also pretty sensitive, as they actually extract data from people that are living in cities. And for this reason, we also wanted to make sure that all the platform or all the MobiSpaces platform is built following some ethical principles. In particular, we were using the principles of data minimization, so that we were really using the exact amount of data that we had to use, not, let's say, unnecessary ones. Then the availability, because we had also to make sure that all data, all personal data, were accessible whenever we had to, for example, to test the platform. Integrity, because we had also to make sure that the data were protected and were not, for example, cancelled or damaged somehow. Confidentiality, because before using any data, we had also to make sure that, for example, people agreed to that. Unlinkability, because personal data, we had to make sure that personal data were not merged or linked to other personal data, for example. The transparency, because whenever we're actually processing data, our stakeholders were informed. So we were all doing everything in a very transparent way. And then also the principle of intervenability, because we also wanted to make sure that all the data, let's say any involved person could also exercise rights related to personal data anytime, so that we could really make sure that everything was following ethical principles. We did also an exercise, so as you can see, all these protection goals were also applied to the different use cases, so that we could really make sure that all the use cases that were testing the platform were really following ethics. With this, I would like just to conclude, also because I see that I have 1 minute left, so I do not have a lot of time left. But what I wanted to say is that, as mentioning, we were really building the platform following standards, and that were also, let's say, standards that were following also ethics, legal, but let's say that were also existing from a technical point of view. So we were not working like FIWARE, that in some cases, let's say, I see that you have created also new standards. In this case, also because the length of the project was not too long, we were just using existing standards. And then we were engaging with STOs, and we also engaged with working groups, mostly thanks to the expert members, the expert standardization experts that we had in our consortium. As I was mentioning, we followed ethical and legal compliance, and we also mapped all the use cases following standards, but also the let's say, thanks to the identification of the different standards, we also got the opportunity to be in contact with standardization working groups. With this, I thank everyone, and in case you have any questions, I don't know, Roberta, if we have time now or if we just wait for the very end of the workshop.
Maybe let's move on. Oh, sorry. And there we go. Maybe let's move on, and then we'll gather questions for all 3 projects at the end, if that's okay, Rita, so that we can move on swiftly. So I will now leave the floor to Johannes for his presentation on the NeMo.Bil project. So Johannes, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about NeMo.Bil.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have to find the right screen to share. I think it's this one. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Johannes Unruh. I'm a member of the German Aerospace Center. I work there for more than 2 years now, and I represent the projects SkyX of Future Mobility and NeMo.Bil, because today there's sadly no one here from the NeMo from the NeMo project, but I work there in different working packages. So I will present NeMo.Bil now. So NeMo.Bil is about sustainable public transport, which means it wants to tackle the following problem. Imagine, and if you are at a rural area in Germany, maybe a small town, then you want to go to the city and there's only a bus like once per hour, or even only once every 2 hours. This is the case right now, and also they are missing bus drivers. The bus drivers that we have now are already very old, and there's a problem with getting new bus drivers. So we need some solution for this. And yeah, with NeMo.Bil, the idea was that we have these small cab vehicles and then large pro vehicles. So these are two different working packages where we develop the small cabs and the large pro vehicles. And then we start from individual starting points where the cab vehicles go to individual destinations. Like, for example, they can go to your home place, or they can go to yeah, whatever place where you are at the moment, and they pick you up. You first book them via an app, and yeah, similar to on-demand platforms that exist right now, and they drive follows autonomously, and sorry, and then they connect to each other on yeah, connecting point, and they couple together to the large pro vehicle, where the pro vehicle can also charge the small cab vehicles, and then they go connected on the large trip, for example, to the city. Yeah, and then if it reaches, if this connected yeah, vehicles go to the city and they reach the final destination, then they decouple, and the cabs then go to the individual destinations, like, for example, an airport, a train station, or just further into the city. So this principle is what we try to complete with NeMo.Bil, where the cabs are to reach the first mile and the last mile, and then on the cross-country trips we have the large pro vehicle, which is more powerful and which can then yeah, provide also energy for the small cabs. And now I have a small video which explains NeMo.Bil. I hope it will work.
I believe the video works, but we cannot hear the audio, Johannes. So maybe you have
You
to
cannot
connect.
hear the audio?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay. Okay, then I just skip this video because I think without audio, or maybe I just say something to the video.
Sure.
So, but can you see the video? Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Here you can see the connected vehicle now drives from the individual location in a connected fashion on the highway or on the intersection road, and also NeMo.Bil, the NeMo.Bil Pro loads the other cab vehicles. Then if it connects, if it reaches this destination, the small cab vehicle can disconnect and then go, for example, here to a school or to other individual destination points. Yeah, then it also automatically goes to recover some energy, and if you then book the system again via the app, then they're fully loaded and ready to go. Yeah. Okay, let's see if I can. Okay. Yeah, the project volume was about 31 million euros and the funding amount 18 million euros, just to give insights in this. And we started in 2023, in mid of 2023, and we will finish next year in June, in end of June. Our coordinator is NeMo.Mobility and the project executing agency, the TÜV in Germany. We are funded by the German Federal Ministry of Economics and Energy. And we also, as you can see on the top right corner, received the German Mobility Award in 2024. This is our consortium, so we are a lot of different partners from also different branches, like small and medium enterprises. We also have large enterprises like Pop and Pothoff or DSpace, and we have non-profit organizations and research institutions like the German Aerospace Center, and also some universities. Associated partners, the German Mobility Automotive Club, and also some other universities. Our key innovations are the lightweight shuttle, which is the CAP, the digital ecosystem, and the convoy coupling. So we really develop a new coupling interface that the cars can couple, and that we also get it allowed to work on the road. To go into more detail on the CAP, it is an efficient lightweight vehicle which is prepared for L4 automated driving, and it is demand oriented, so you can book it via the app at any point. It is barrier free and modular, so you have different interiors, which you will also see soon. And it has a maximum speed of 60 kilometers per hour. It has a range up to 200 kilometers, and it can receive updates over the air, so via 5G, for example. Yeah, from the interior, as I mentioned, you have the modular approach, so you have the option to have this interior, also with 4 seats. Or also with optional safety driver for early testing, and you have air conditioning, you have a human information system, and also lighting and cameras to, for example, for remote people to talk to the people in the car. The autonomous driving system integrates sensors, computing hardware like the AD stack. So we have the AD software, and we develop advanced positioning, which is needed for the coupling process. So it has to be very, very precise, and also the motion control for accurate automated coupling. So we use LED grids here that the camera can receive the LED information and then do the relative positioning of the cars to each other. So to get the cars really on the street, we prepared 2 automated cabs, which are in the approval process, which is some bureaucracy here in Germany. So you need to really plan everything and get the ODD analysis, for example. We have at the moment 2 ODDs in Germany defined. One you can see here in Augsburg, and this is the domain where the vehicles then are tested on and are allowed to drive. The coupling interface, which I mentioned, is a mechanical coupling. It is automatically lockable and releasable, so no need for manual intervention, and it is for efficient energy transmission, so that if the Pro connects to the small caps, that it is also from the aerodynamic point of view real advantage, and it uses less energy. And also there's a wired connection for data transfer so that the cars can speak to each other and process information from the leading vehicles. The Pro vehicle will be powered by hydrogen. So we have lightweight hydrogen vessels, we have valves and pipe system, and the power generator, which is explicitly developed in this project for the Pro vehicle. Then the digital ecosystem, I think we can also discuss about this in the later point of the meeting, which is where we as German Aerospace Center and also FIWARE work on, and also some other partners. In the center, we have the data platform of FIWARE, where we have the context broker of FIWARE running, which is distributing the data to the different entities and also collecting the data. We have then around this the digital ecosystem, which includes the pros and the caps. So the data platform here is running on a server, and then the pros and caps can connect to this platform via 5G, for example. We have a connection to the BaseX data spaces where we get additional external data, like for example, weather data, traffic information, or public transport tables. And this is then in the local application where you have also the app that is developed in this project to book the cabs, and the provider's platform, and also a payment system. Yeah, we have in Germany, we have almost 91% rural area, 57% of the people live in the rural areas, and 47% of the GNP is generated in rural regions. So it is really a big part of Germany, which is in need for on-demand individual transportation services. Yeah, then we have also the ecosystem mobility 4.0, which is the next phase of the funding body for German projects, and it is established as an open digital basis for these autonomous on-demand shuttles. And yeah, the goal is to develop technical blueprints and a reference architecture to accepted governance and standards. And it is about the ecosystem mobility 4.0 to build a community where we really can get all the relevant players and have then the different industrial data ecosystems in the cycle for influence, build, run, and scale. And there's also there was a workshop now in Berlin. So yeah, if you are interested, then feel free to connect to this new project. And this was from my side. If you have questions, of course, now or later on. And
thank you. Thank you, Johannes. As I mentioned, maybe we'll take questions at the end of all the three project presentations. So I would like now to pass the floor to the TANGO project. And I believe we have Thomas here to present.
Yes, thank you. If I can present from my laptop, it would be better because I have some animations.
Oh, okay, okay, no worries. So maybe we can support. Yeah, Rita is going to give you access right now to present.
Okay.
So now you should have the ability to present yourself.
Sure. Just 1 second, because I'm sharing.
Of course.
Okay. So I hope you can see my screen,
yes.
Full screen. Okay. So my name is Tomás Pariente from Atos Eviden. I'm the project coordinator of TANGO. So don't expect a lot of technical details from my side because I'm the coordinator. But nevertheless, I'm also leading the work package on AI. So I'm more into AI than in other aspects of TANGO, but I can more or less answer to most of the questions in any case. So basically, just to mention that TANGO is a sister project from MobiSpaces from the same, and also we started at the same time. So basically, I'm going to give an overview of Tango, but also my colleague Claudia Mertinger cannot be here today because she has an illness, and she was she is the one that is more into a standardization in the project, but he provided with a few slides at the end of the presentation just to comment on the work that we are doing in standardization. But first of all, I'm going to introduce the project. As I said, is a sister project from MobiSpaces. We started at the very same time, the same topic. We are, I would say, a big project because, as you can see, we are almost 40 partners, so it's quite big, which for a coordination, from the coordination point of view, is also challenging in a sense. But I have to say that it was at the end it was quite easy because most of the partners were really engaged into the work in the project, so it was smooth in a sense. So basically, we end also at the end of the summer in August, at the end of August. So we are now in the process of evaluation of the results. So we are running the different pilots, and we are extracting some lesson learned and the KPIs of the pilot. So we are now in a good moment in order to see how the project went into the last 3 years. So just to give you an overview of the main pillars of Tango, this is the topic where we were funded. As you can see in the slide, the topic was about dealing with data spaces, with data sharing, but also that you can see in the central element is the delivery of a fair, responsible, and energy efficient data sharing platform. So at the end of the day, what we did is to have an objective based on the call topic, which is basically creating this holistic and flexible and open framework. And one of the main things that the topic stated was precisely this green data management aspects, how to make greener these type of operations and more energy efficient, especially in aspects such as adding SSI, self-sovereign identity, self-encryption, continuous behavioral authentication, and artificial intelligence into the same environment, I would say. So basically what we did is to mimic the structure of the call and having different objectives, and we divided this into the work packages that we have in the project. So basically we started with this first responsible and green data management and data sharing platform that is related to in order to perform data sharing, you need to generate trust among the participants. So trust is a very important aspect to be taken into account, as well, and being secure in the sense that we need to be auditable, to have some data management aspects into the sharing environment taking a very good care of, and also putting AI into the cocktail. This is showcased in 6, in practical terms they were 7 because one of them was doubled different pilots. So we have a pilot on banking, the banking pilot that was led by an organization in Italy, Abilab, which is let's say doing innovation from different banks in Italy. For those banks in the project, we did experiments with a federated learning platform in order to do some anomaly detection, sharing without sharing the data, but sharing the results of the federated learning training. We also have a pilot in public administration. In this case, is for third country nationals applying for a visa in Germany, but it's only for working purposes for people that are working in an organization that want to move to Germany, to the same organization, how to arrange all the papers in order to get the visa. We have another use case that is in retail. We have a company in Greece and Cyprus that is a supermarket, a big supermarket, the first one in those countries, and they have office in the two countries, and they had to share data between the offices, and for legal reasons it was not so straightforward. So we decided to perform some data sharing aspects in this supermarket between the two countries. We have an autonomous driving pilot. In this particular scenario, it's in a controlled environment for a company in Spain, in the area of Valencia and Barcelona, that they have an autonomous car for a robot taxi, and they wanted to test also some functionalities, especially related to the onboarding of users into the taxi, and how to include data from the different users and the taxi application. But this is in a controlled environment. It's not in a real scenario, but nevertheless we apply these technologies as if we're in a real scenario. We have a couple of use cases into the smart manufacturing domain. One is more into sharing data for 3D printing with customers, and also doing some predictive learning to improve the 3D printing process. And we have another use case in a company that is a factory that is in Portugal, that they are producing a lot of products, especially plates and stuff like that for IKEA. And they wanted to, they have a very strict procedure in terms of who can go into the factory, into some specific places of the factory. So it's, as you can imagine, it's a factory with lines with different colors on the ground, and people cannot go to every other place, also for security reasons and safety reasons. And we apply some specific techniques for this authentication process of entering those areas. And we last but not least, we have this smart hospitality use case, which is around tourism, in this case in Mallorca, with strong ties also with the European data space in tourism, because it's led by Any Solutions, which is also part of this European data space, and also quite invested into the Gaia X as well. So this is more or less the project landscape that we have. So basically, going into more details about the architecture of Tango, what we do is to be based on the principle of security, trust, and interoperability, inherited by the compliance with all the data spaces initiatives. I mentioned before, for instance, Gaia X, but also IDS and others that we will see later on. And we are trying to have several Tango offerings. You will see the technical offerings in the next slides, to enhance these privacy and trust aspects into the platform. So the architecture is, in principle, we believe that is highly modular and relatively easy to deploy. You will see that in the next slide, using Kubernetes and Docker containers, and users will be able to tailor the different offerings to their own needs. So you don't need to deploy everything, but just bits and pieces. There are several technical offerings that can be used or they cannot, depending on the use case. We base ourselves also on a connector, and a connector that is following the IDSA approach. In our particular case, as it was mentioned at the beginning, we are also relying on the FIWARE data space connector. So when we do that, this data sharing ecosystem, what we do is to try to have a very easy way to deploy the different technical offerings that we have, as I mentioned before. So we have what we call Tango connectors. It's not the same as an IDS connector, but it has an IDS connector behind the scenes, the FIWARE connector. But the Tango connector is a set of technical offerings, including, in some cases, the actual IDS connector, but also different bits and pieces that are tailored for the specific usage of the different pilots. So it's based on a Kubernetes approach, so it's quite easy to be, to deploy. Easy in a sense, because you know that nothing is completely easy, but at least it's easier than in other case. We are trying to have some care on the functionality for the end users in order to use the platform. And at the end of the day, what we have is, let's say, in each of the connectors, the Tango connectors that we have all the components needed to ensure the trust and privacy that is needed for this type of environments. This is the list of the different technology offerings that we have in Tango. It is divided into 3 main building blocks because they are mapped also to different work packages. The first one is more related to privacy preserving and data management and storage. The second one is more into the trust aspects, and the third one is into the AI over trustworthy data operations. So I'm not going into the details of all the components because there are quite a few, as you can see here, but basically just to mention that we have methods for ensuring the trustworthiness of the data operations. We have means to encrypt and encrypt data from different aspects. We have several methods for authentication and authorization, even some innovative ones such as looking at the behavior of the user or devices into the environment and see if they are acting normally or they are out of the regular patterns that of usage, and then probably alerting or even denying the access to the system if there's something that is not completely aligned with the expectations. And also we have different technology offerings that are dealing with more security and especially identity management, such as self-sovereign encryption, or wallets, stuff like that, that at the end of the day are used for a seamless onboarding process of users or devices, and basically giving access to the system in a very trustworthy manner. And last but not least, we have all the AI aspects. As I mentioned, federated learning before, but there are other tools for managing the data before and after the sharing. Some tools for performing some curation of the data, such as exploratory data analysis engine that are quite tailored to the specific use cases and pilots. So there are some generic tools, but also some others that are really close to the usage of the platform in the specific pilots. We have also XAI aspects. We have accelerators for hardware, for GPUs, and last but not least, we have a very good tool in order to ensure that we are reusing as much as possible renewable energy in these processes, such as in AI training over GPUs, stuff like that. So when the solar energy is available, is the moment that where we can run these processes that are energy hungry in a sense. So helping on the greenness of the operations. So this is more or less the list of Tango elements that we have, Tango technology offerings. I just going to hint very quickly in this slide some typical process that we have behind the scenes in the Tango use cases. I mentioned before the onboarding process because the onboarding process is quite important in order to give access to the users to the system. Before that, they have to onboard, and for that, what we are doing is to use this technology, which is recognizing the passport or the identity, national identity cards from the different countries. So we have this process where you can use your mobile phone to actually scan your passport, getting this information, and this information is using the self-sovereign identity and wallets. They can give you an identity for the Tango platform. So we are using this because, as you know, there is a directive in Europe for using the e-passport. In the future, it will be quite straightforward, mainstream in Europe, but now still is in the process of innovation, I would say. So we are advancing on this and having this identity using the e-passport in general. So once you get the credentials, you can log into the system and get access to the different components. Also using the several components here, such as the SSI wallet, the verifiers, and so on. So this is an identity process. we get the authentication process, we pass the credentials, and we get at the end of the day a token to access to the system. Once you have access to the system, you can do the data exchange aspect. And for instance, you're a data provider, you would like to encrypt your data, using the previous token. You can start the process using all the necessary keys and so on to actually perform the encryption of the process. And another process that you can have is to get access to data that you are authorized to. And for that, also using the token that you have after the login, you can request data. This data passes through to the connector using some of our technologies that we are enhancing or doing some specific improvements in terms of using tools such as the around policies such as PDP-PEP compatibility. We get a compatibility token. From there, we get access to the data. The data providers can provide an API to access to the data. This is integrated with the PDP-PEP through a specific APIs, and you can get access to the data. If the data is encrypted, it can be decrypted afterwards, and at the end of the day, you have the data available either via the portal, the Tango portal, or programmatically via API. So this is an example of how we work. Of course, the FIWARE Dataspace connector is behind the scenes helping to this. So we have, this is from the technical perspective. Now from the standardization perspective, as I mentioned before, Claudia cannot be here today, but I will try to cover for her. So one important thing is that, as I mentioned before, we are using let's say the FIWARE space, the data space connector behind the scene. So we are quite in line with all the expectations from the and compliance with the latest initiatives such as the Data Space Business Alliance and others that are working with data spaces. So we are trying to use the latest work on that and trying to improve from there. But from a more specific perspective, we already contacted also with the Horizon Booster, as in the case of MobiSpaces. So we have some talks with the experts over there, and they recommended to us to go for specific standards. But in particular, the first ones were related to more interoperability, as we are. As I mentioned, in this world of data spaces, of course, we have to look at the different standards existing, for example, the ETSI standards, but also the ecosystem-driven different standards, such as the ones mentioned from ITS, Gaia-X, and of course, the ones that FIWARE is promoting, and try to leverage with them in these aspects of interoperability. So we are, in the case of Fujitsu, they are quite active in engaging with SDOs in these aspects. We are basically looking at this standardization process. As I was mentioned before in the FIWARE presentation, they are still in the making in a sense. So, but we are trying to be aware of them and trying to look at the different standardization process that are there. Then we have a second aspect, which is more about secure and governed data exchange. In this particular case, we are looking at different aspects. One aspect is related to federated learning, for instance, how federated learning can work, and we have been looking also at different standards that are now in this process. You can see some of them here in the slide. So at the end of the day, we are not trying to influence this standard. We are trying to just be aware of them and create awareness within the project, and trying to be as much as let's say receptive as possible. Although you know that all these processes, especially relating AI and the standards, are now evolving, not only at the international level, but especially in Europe, especially after this AI Act. There are many things that are in the making at this point. So we are trying to be aware of them. And last but not least, we are also looking at standards related to privacy and resilience by design. So also in general, not only in relation to AI, but in relation to also to using edge devices. In some cases, we are not only using edge devices. This is part of the work that we are doing in Tango, but we are also using many cloud interactions. So at the end of the day, we are looking at how to integrate these privacy preserving mechanisms into the different technical offerings that I was showing before, and each of the partners that are dealing with these techniques are aware of the different standards that are in the process. I'm not listing here all the standards. I just mentioned one of them just to mention this, but in general, as you can imagine, there are many standards in cybersecurity that are quite necessary at this point, because you know how it goes the world at this point. So we need to be aware of these threats. So in general, we are trying to showcase and preserve our reference architecture with different standards, process, trying to be aware of them. We are not influencing a lot, I have to say, in those standards, but we are trying to follow them. We didn't promise in the project also to influence standards, just to create awareness among the participants. But nevertheless, we are trying to be in contact with these SDOs and following recommendations also from the experts from the booster. So we are trying to work with that, but without, I have to be honest, influencing a lot on this. Just awareness, I would say. That's the bottom line of our project. So I think that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's all. No, I have another one on ethical AI. I didn't remember that one. Yeah, one of the components that we have in the technical offerings is precisely the explainable AI. And in explainable AI, we have also been looking at the different standards in the making for that. And yeah, not only explainable, but ethical AI in general. We did several talks and workshops in the project for the project partners to be aware of these aspects. We have a legal expert and ethical expert in the project and we are trying to follow all the necessary steps for being ethical in not only with AI but in general in the project. In fact, we are paying a lot of attention now that we are evaluating the project in all the ethical and legal aspects. You know, all these aspects around consent form for users, creating data processing agreements, stuff like that, following the latest regulations is quite important in order to be compliant with all these initiatives. And I think that's all. I'm also open to questions and to the talks afterwards.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Thomas. Do we have any questions for Thomas or for the other speakers from the three projects that we've just heard about? So any questions about MobiSpaces, NeMo.Bil, or Tango?
I have a question. When you use data space connector, we are evolving and also starting to integrate data space protocol and stuff. Do you go on with that development, or are you remaining on a former version of the fiber data space connector?
This is a very good question, because in fact, you know, these projects are 3 years long, so it's difficult to keep pace with all the developments. But in the case of the FIWARE Data Space Connector, we started creating let's say all the aspects related with the PDP, PEP, the policies were following the previous version of the connector. Then the new version appeared, but and in some cases it was not compatible with the developments that we have in the project at that time. The protocols followed were different, so there were some differences. So we decided to go in the 2 ways, because in some of the pilots we decided to go and develop, for instance, all the SSI aspects and the PDP PEP evolving to the latest version of the data space connector, while in other pilots we used the previous one, because there was some some work that was done for those. It was tested in one or two of the pilots. So we decided to continue with this work anyway, and using the previous version of the connector. But at the same time, we evolved some of the components to be used with the latest version. So at the end of the day, we have two settings. One of that is used in a couple of pilots with the previous version, and the other one that is used in the other pilots with the latest version. So, you know, this is an evolving landscape, and it's very difficult to to be, you know, in a project that is ending. It's not feasible to do everything, but we are trying to at least keep with the work done before and continue with the latest version. Probably there will be a further version, and we will not be compatible anymore, but we'll see.
I'm just asking because the data space protocol will probably be the first data space component product / that is going to be standardized in ISO. So this.
Yeah. You know, in fact, I didn't comment on that, but we spent almost a year of the project just deciding which connector to use behind the scene. So we compare several connectors, the Clips one, I don't remember, 3-4 connectors. One of them was the FIWARE data space connector, and we decided to go for that one because it was trying to follow the latest specification of data space protocol. Nevertheless, at that time, it was still in the making, so we have some doubts as usual, but we decided to go for it because we believe that at least it was probably the most advanced at that time, and also because we also have some collaboration with FIWARE, some of the, not only my company but also others. So at the end of the day, it was easier, the communication, and we are using also this FIWARE data space connector in other projects as well. So it was in a sense smoother communication.
Thanks.
Thank you, Gino, for the question. Any other questions for the projects? Okay. Then maybe we can move on now to our open discussion moment of the workshop. We're perfectly on time. So maybe I can introduce this part, and maybe Rita, if you want to put on the slide that we have, just to sort of give you an idea of what we had in mind for this part, because the objective of this workshop is, of course, to reflect on the standardization processes that we have within our different initiatives, organizations, and projects, but also to see how we can do it better in the future, how we can move forward, and more specifically, how we can move forward in a joint way. Standardization is about harmonization. It's about sort of finding, also finding what works, finding what doesn't work, and moving on with it. So maybe I can start you off with this conversation by asking the first question, and I think this emerged already from your presentations in many different ways. So I might twist slightly this first question a little bit, but and maybe I can pose this to Gino first. Why do you think standardization is important? And more than that, because you've already touched upon this in your presentation, what's the most important aspect in terms of standardization that you're finding very poignant, very pressing at the moment? What's the biggest standardization issue at present? What do you think?
So of course, interoperability, because thinking of mobile phones, you can go to China or to Australia or to North America and your mobile should work. This is not what we have in data spaces today, because we have different technology stacks and they are not interoperable today. They are just not, and many people don't know that or are not aware of this. And so this must be the goal. And so one big question I mentioned before is, are natural persons first-class citizens? So can they act directly in a data space, or must they go via an organization like a company or a city or something? Because consider the common European data spaces, there are tourism, health, mobility, smart cities with city engagement and stuff like this. And in my head, and I'm not in the policy, I'm not a policy maker, but in my head, there are natural persons, first-class citizens. So if I have my my health data in my last pictures from my radiation or whatever, I don't want to have it in telecom. I want to have it on my side. And so this is a big question. It was intensively discussed. It has become a little more quiet, but if this is a fundamental, I have an analogy for that. So if you build a factory and you have either only persons or only robots or both, all three settings will be completely different for security reasons. So this is a fundamental goal and a setting. And if this is not answered, things will be different, because what is in Eclipse going on today is machine only. So they are not having natural persons in the loop, what they standardize these days, and this is what they write officially. And I think this is not right. But in the end, this must be clarified on the goal level, and because otherwise you must always go via a portal, via a city, via a company, and you are not a self-sovereign person. And this is what I understand of the data strategy from Europe.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the contribution. I think that's very interesting. Does anybody else want to comment on this, on sort of the importance of standardization and what's the most poignant issue? What's the biggest challenge at the moment in terms of standardization? Maybe it's also linked to some best practices, some challenges you faced in your projects that you've had to overcome when it comes to standardization. And maybe I can turn this over to Johannes, maybe if you want to comment on that. What are some best practices in NeMo.Bil? You're also involved in GaiaX for Future Mobility. Is there any best practices that you would recommend in terms of like joint standardization efforts?
Yeah, sure. So let me start with GaiaX for Future Mobility. So GaiaX was, just to give you an overview, was launched to build a sovereign and federated data infrastructure for Europe, and also that to ensure trust, interoperability, and decentralization, and to really turn these principles into something that works across cars, cities, and clouds, for example. And this is where GaiaX for Future Mobility steps in. So GaiaX is the template, the blueprint, so to say, and GaiaX for Future Mobility is to really bring this onto the mobility domain. And there we at the DLR coordinated 6 projects, which are building interoperable services for connected and automated mobility. And this includes things like federated identity, digital twins of road infrastructures, cross-domain services, and so on. And how this works out in the NeMo.Bil project. So NeMo.Bil is not formally a part of GaiaX for Future Mobility, but it is inspired, and it takes the same principles that are that we have in GaiaX and GaiaX for Future Mobility. Yeah, what we have there is also like these individual parts, that the individual components, like the first mile and last mile, which we solved through the CAPS, the seamless convoying and dynamic routing, is made by a partner called Reisewitz. We have sustainability built in, and but to say none of this works really in isolation, and this is where standardization becomes absolutely essential, because we've learned that you cannot really build next generation mobility systems unless your data and services speak really the same language. And yeah, NeMo.Bil, we developed this modular architecture, and this is also what I think really is key to get standardization. So from the lessons learned, I would say that really focus on modularity. So don't build monolith structure systems. So mobility providers, for example, or infrastructure operators, or even energy utilities can plug in independently. And also that trust has to be designed in. So you cannot start just developing something and then later think about trust, but more to get the federated identity and encryption first, and then go on from there. And also at the third point, I would say that semantic alignment pays off. So for example, in NeMo.Bil, we have from FIWARE the smart data models, and really agreeing on these shared data models early helps really to the different projects and sectors interoperate without reinventing the wheels there. Yeah, these are 3 points which I would say are lessons learned, and yeah, I think these are really important also in the context of standardization.
Thank you very much, Johannes. Anyone else want to comment on sort of best practices that we can sort of all adopt in future work? As you've heard, some of the projects that you've heard about have done a lot of work, but are currently in the process of ending. So maybe there is a legacy that we can leave here, sort of for future projects, and some recommendations that we can provide. I see there are 2 hands raised. And Pampis. So maybe I'll leave the floor to Pampis first because he hasn't had a chance to speak yet.
Thank you very, very much. Greetings to all. My name is Babis Hatzmalis. I'm also a member of the TANGO team, the TANGO group, and I'm also representing Lisbon Council, a policy NGO based in Brussels. I would say that a very good practice would be to remember and start early, meaning that we should start as early as possible. I mean, that is mostly for European projects, to map the key exploitable results so as to also be able and correlate them with relevant standards and bodies. And secondly, to not forget to try and use the Horizon support, the Horizon Boost DHS support, the booster support. So to register to the Horizon support system and to participate in the booster training, let's say, where each individual project can be supported in order to properly navigate to the right channels and to be able to implement the standardization activities properly. I think that these 2 things are very good to remember as at least good practices. Thank you.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree, Babis. Thank you very much. Gino, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I have 3 other aspects to mention. So first of all, standardization must be considered either global or European, because when we have just received the new standardization request, it's for Europe, it's with EIDAS and stuff like that. And if you go global for ISO with China and America, so it's difficult and it's different. So if you have something standard in Europe, it doesn't mean you have it globally. And I think this is not so good. What is really lacking in learning, federation of data spaces. We have so far advanced with data spaces itself, but cross-federation is mostly lacking with components and standards and regulations. So this is something we are experiencing now in the smart data spaces for smart cities and communities, because we have to federate several data spaces, and this is not that well advanced as building a data space. And one learning from my side, I think I see this as a danger these days, that data spaces are getting too small, because each data space has its own governance authority and have its individual rules. And I've just learned that sometimes it's even cities and villages having an own data space. And this is, in my head, not the definition of a data space, because with each individual data space that have an own governance authority with individual rules, again, this breaks interoperability. And so I think there needs to be some consolidation probably one day, because when you have described all your technical aspects that you have created for making your data space secure, but if you go to another one, they have probably a different stack and setup. And so this will be difficult to interoperate. And so my feeling for the next 10 years that it's going more into distinguishable aspects in standardization objects, like for example in Gaia X participant credentials, that you have a different membership attribute or so, but not a completely different item for membership credentials also, because in the end you must use the same technique and stacks to be interoperable across data spaces, and this aspect becomes more and more important. And the more individual you are, the less interoperable you are.
I think it's a very good point, Jenna. Thank you very much for making it. And I think that's also where standardization comes in. If we have a standardized way of creating data spaces and if we have a way of standardizing data spaces that already exist, maybe there's more opportunities for interoperability in the future and sort of to create a common environment. Rita, I'll leave you the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Roberta. Actually, I like the comment that Jerome made at the very end, because it is also the problem that we are having when developing any platform. I'm also thinking, for example, about EOSC, so the European Open Science Cloud. We have also, let's say, the same issue there, that you have also a lot of very small let's say projects, and the interoperability issue is also something that always appears there, because every platform has its own rules, and it is, I mean, also hard to overcome this, especially when you have a lot of different EU-funded projects. They have also to do very similar things, let's say. I hope that I'm not getting too much, let's say, political, but from time to time, you also have this type of issue, let's say, when, for example, when you have projects that also have to do similar things, because then every single project or entity is going to use, let's say, its own rules. I mean, at least how it is working now. Of course, I mean, it would be ideal also to have a general interoperability system, as it was suggested also by Gernot. And actually, something that I wanted to mention for MobiSpaces is that something that we noticed that it was crucial for us in terms of standardization was that we were using standards to develop the platform, but then we realized that if we did not get in touch with SDOs, our work was not too much authoritative, let's say. So we would have done a lot of very nice things, but it was important for us also to get in touch with people that were really working in working groups, on standardization working groups, also to get feedback, for example, or to just present the work that MobiSpaces was doing. And in this, I know that it is hard to for projects. In most cases, I'd say, I don't want to say that it works always like this, but very often it might be difficult to get in touch with SDOs directly to, let's say, also enter this word. And what helped us actually was that from one side, we had people from the consortium that paid membership to, let's say, be part of SDOs. But on the other side, we were also supported by a project that is called HS Booster. It is a project that was funded by the European Commission that helped EU-funded projects that were facing issues in getting in touch, for example, with SDOs or in general with standardization rules to overcome them. So in our case, it was helpful, let's say, also to understand who were the people behind the different SDOs, also to create a kind of network. So this also helped us in trying, let's say, to at least overcome this issue.
Thank you very much, Rita. And yeah, this is the booster was also what Babs was mentioning, right?
Yeah.
And I think one recommendation that I would give in this sense is to research and try to be aware of what are the support systems for youth-funded projects and for other projects for standardization, because it is not, especially based on TRL level, there are many different factors. Some EU-funded projects don't even know, that they need an initial training on what we're discussing here today, why standardization is important, how do we start on standardization. So I think being aware of what kind of support can be given to projects in the EU and in general in the ecosystem is very important. Thomas.
Yes, so I was going to say something very similar in a sense that I think it's complicated for some projects, especially some projects where partners are not members of SDOs, to actually get in touch,
Absolutely.
and also because in most cases people don't know how to do it, or how to influence, or even how to be aware of everything, because if you look at the standards landscape is huge. In some cases, many standards are talking about very similar things, and you don't know exactly which one is the one to follow. So we need this guidance in a sense. So the booster is one example of this, but also there are other groups such as, I don't know, if you're a member of a BDBA, you can you have this group, working group in standards, and there are other organizations that are doing something similar. So it's good to be aware of this in order to at least create this awareness in the project. But influencing these standards is quite difficult, because you know, moving standard is not an easy task. It's only a few big names that are in there. You can be heard because maybe you can have a presentation in some specific working group, but at the end of the day, it's really difficult for a project to be really let's say an influencing part in this ecosystem. So at the end of the day, if you don't have a partner that is very active in the standardization, it's very difficult to actually be part of this. That's why we didn't promise in the project to actually influence the standard, but at least to be aware of everything that was going on. That is probably even not the case, because everything is too much. So nevertheless, I think it's a good approach to try to follow standards, and at least not try to reinvent the wheel. So for instance, we were talking before about these smart data models from FIWARE. So you have data models in this in an organization that has been working on that for a few years. It's better to follow them rather than creating your own. So even this is even if it's not a standard in a sense, it's say a common sense aspect that to try to follow what others are doing, and in many cases it's not the case in projects, because there is always yet another whatever that is created in every project. So at the end of the day, it's not so easy, and this is a problem that I believe is structural to the nature of these R&D funded projects, because the Commission just have a working plan, and then people apply, they follow their own ideas, and then sometimes you get a group of projects that somehow they share ideas and how to follow up, but it's very difficult even for this group of projects to come up with something that is solid, something that really share the best practices and how to follow things, even if in some cases it's fruitful, but normally it's not an easy task. I'm not talking only about the standards, I'm talking about in general, but I think the European R&D landscape is not an easy one for standardization, I would say. But in any case, it's good to follow standards. It's good to try to not to reinvent the wheel in every case. If there is something that is working and is following more or less the latest advancements, just try to follow it, as we did, for instance, with the FIWARE Data Space Connector, that was following the latest recommendations. So okay, why not following this instead of creating your own connector, for instance? So these type of things should be taken into account, but this is a very difficult environment, I would say, in the research projects.
Thank you very much, Thomas. I absolutely agree. It's a matter of not reinventing the wheel, but to be able to not reinvent the wheel, we have to be aware of what standards are out there, right? So it's kind of it's a bit of a vicious circle, and it's not an easy question to answer in many cases, but we can only do our best, I guess. Any other points regarding this, or is there anything that sort of you would like to share? Otherwise, I have a little bit of a maybe out of the box question for you, if for any of you who would like to answer. Okay, I'll throw it out there, and if we don't have an answer to this, it's absolutely fine. It's just like something that came to mind earlier. We've spoken a lot about AI standardization and sort of AI ethics and all of this, but I wonder whether there is a role for AI to be played in standardization, in the sense that I'm turning it, in Italian we say turning the omelette upside down, in the sense that we have all of this, we spoke up earlier about metadata, standardization, and so on. Is there a way that AI can, I don't know, help us retroactively standardize a lot of things that are not currently standardized? Is this something that is being spoken about in the ecosystem, or is this something that has no future? What are your thoughts? Anybody want to address this? Also open to the people who haven't presented, of course. This is a completely open conversation if anybody wants to contribute. Or maybe we'll leave it as an open question for the future. Okay, maybe I've asked, Rita, do you want to, yeah?
No, I was mentioning that it is a very interesting question, Roberta, but at least I mean from, I'm not, let's say, an expert in standardization, but let's say I have, I used to work in some standardization projects, and what I feel is that at the status quo, we do not have a lot of usage of artificial intelligence, let's say, in the process. For example, even of approving standards, the entire process is very long, let's say, also because you need to involve quite a lot of people. And it can take, let's say, a minimum of 5 years. So it is also, let's say, a pretty complex, let's say, a political process overall. And for example, even in the, when, for example, now I will give the example of MobiSpaces because it is, let's say, the practical one that I have. But also, for example, when we were trying to do some landscape analysis, we were not using a lot of AI. So we were doing really some desk research on our own, and we were really trying to gather the information from the SDOs we were in contact with, either through the project consortium members, or let's say outside through the help of the booster. So I would say that my personal opinion is that it would help, especially in identifying gaps for the future, because it is also where, or for example, to perform some landscape analysis, because we have so many information for now that it is also hard to let's say, put all of them, let's say, in, all together from time to time. So, but for the status quo, I do not feel that we have a lot of tools that are already exploiting this. Unless, I mean, someone here in the room will will say that I'm wrong, but my understanding is that there is still quite a lot of work in this sense.
Thank you, Rita, for addressing that.
Yeah, actually, I would add on this that machine learning and AI today is mostly rule-based somehow. Yeah, you train it and then it follows. So we are here, standardization is creating the rules. I think this is a step further. And so maybe not today, but even for tomorrow, I would not like to give it in a machine hand, because people unlearn things. And so this is a thing of, as you said, consensus and discussions and politics. And this has good sides and bad sides, but I don't want to unlearn this from people, how to do this. Because normally if you give it away to a machine, it sticks there, in my opinion. And probably if you don't book your travels anymore and you take navigation, yeah, many people probably cannot come from point A to B without navigation today. And so I think it's not today, and I would not do it tomorrow, because it's long, it's tedious, but it's consensus, and I think this is also necessary, because it will mostly be some kind of compromise, and you have to take people with you, and you have to prepare people for compromise. And so it's for research, for testing, for texting, to create good text, but not to do the whole work. I would not vote for this, at least not in the next 5 years.
Great. So we are not rid of standardization activities yet. Standardization is not a skill that we can unlearn. That's a really interesting take on it. Thank you.
Yeah, if I may just to comment, I think that I completely agree with the previous statements. I think that for the standardization process is perhaps for some specific aspects it could be helpful, but I see more AI in this aspect for compliance afterwards, for compliance with the standards. So, but imagine, for instance, an SME could, that is producing some AI services, and they want to be compliant with the standards. So, to which standard they have to look at? So it's a huge amount of standards, different legislations, and many things. So at the end of the day, how do you spend time for an SME that doesn't have a lot of resources in order to be compliant? And now, for instance, there will be many risks on AI, and they have to be compliant with some of the standards and some of the rules. So at the end of the day, I think that AI could help a lot on this compliance. Being a kind of assistant for this type of companies, also for big companies as well, but for SMEs it's clear. So this could be a good tool to have in order to ensure that we are at least know to which things you should be compliant, which standards with legislation, and also to check the compliance with the standards using simple forms and stuff like that. So this could be a very, very good addition.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was a very, very interesting conversation about that. I'm glad that we've had a chance to discuss that. So we're nearing the end of our co-creation and standardization workshop. Maybe I will leave the floor to you all for some concluding remarks. Sorry, I do not remember if we had decided that all the projects were going to do some concluding remarks, Rita. Yeah, so if any, all of the people who have spoken, or even the people in the audience, would like to sort of maybe in a couple of minutes summarize your main takeaways, your main recommendations in terms of standardization within your projects or within your organizations, that would be great. I will give the order of interventions, otherwise we will lose track. So I'll start from Gernot, who started speaking first.
Yeah, I think we need the standardization is a bit late, so and the projects are a little bit too early, so they should deploy something that is not there, not ready, but somehow there but not ready. So I think this would have been better, or maybe some pause for a year or something, because people have to make decisions. You said you had to decide for 1 year which connector to change to choose. And so we are struggling with things that must have not been that way. So this is difficult. And I think this whole data space thing, at least in Europe, needs more leadership, because we have multiple somehow agencies and all have different opinion, and there's nobody that had a final say. So it's good that we have Europe. It's good that we have discussions and opinions and interests. But I think it needs to be two-step, like a broad discussion in the beginning, and then it has to be given into a small, directly led team without endless discussions and no solutions and decisions. And so I think we are suffering a bit from that, but maybe it will improve one day.
Thank you.
So
Thank
we
you.
in FIWARE, with our connector, with the natural persons, we are in the middle of it. We have some expectations, some hopes. It's not decided. It can be good, it can be bad, but let's hope for the best.
Thank you for the optimistic outlook. Oh, sorry, Gernot, that's really appreciated. Okay, I leave the floor to the MobiSpaces team. Rita or Valentina, do you have any concluding remarks?
Okay, most probably, not sure, Valentina, maybe I can start. If you want to add something on top, feel free. Maybe I will just I would like just to highlight also let's say the role of ethics, because I mean we also touched it a little bit that let's say in our case actually using standards also helped us to make sure that all the data that we were using were following also some privacy rules. So especially when you are dealing with a lot of sensitive data from people, it is important also to apply standardized rules, also to make sure that we will not share very personal information of people.
Thank you, Rita. And I will now leave the floor to NeMo.Bil and Johannes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I fully agree with Rita and also with Gernot. I think it is really important to collaborate together. So no single company or region can solve mobility's biggest challenges alone. So in both GaiaX for Future Mobility and also NeMo.Bil, we have seen the power of co-creation across sectors. We brought together automotive, IT, energy, and public stakeholders, which are privacy-preserving, scalable, and people-centered solutions. And so also to keep in mind is that standardization isn't just like a technical concern, which it is more what makes collaboration possible. So it's more into politics. It is, as Gernot said, discussions, agreements, and really talk to each other. And it is a long process, but I think it is worth it. And yeah, this kind of collaboration is how we go from principles to platforms, or from frameworks to functioning fleets, so to say. And yeah, this is what I think is the most important, to really collaborate together, go into politics, do the standardization process by discussion, and then the technology can follow.
Thank you, Johannes. I like the idea of seeing standardization as an opportunity other than an obstacle, you know, an opportunity for harmonization, opportunity. It should make our life easier in many different ways, not more difficult. Over to the Tango project. Thomas, do you have any concluding remarks?
Yeah, well, I have also some colleagues here as they want to intervene, like Babis, Nelly, or Peter. But in my opinion, I think that one of the key things that should change, and probably won't change, let's see, in the future, is that at least for R&D projects, European R&D projects, there should be some guidelines and monitoring from the EC and some specific experts in order to avoid this isolation that we have in projects. So this has been improved a little bit in the past years. So there are some group of projects that somehow made some consultation meetings, stuff like that. But I think it's not enough at this point. So we are mainly we apply for a call. We gain the project. We start the project. We have our own work program, and that's all. So you forget about all the others, even if you somehow talk to others, but at the end of the day, it's a forced collaboration, which is not working too good. I think this has to be improved somehow. So at the end of the day, the European Commission is putting a lot of money in many different projects that in many cases reinventing the wheel. So the Commission somehow needs to, with some experts, need to go over a single project evaluation, and they should go more for an umbrella of projects evaluation, trying to force this collaboration even at a technical level, not only at a dissemination or exploitation level. And that I think this will improve a lot also the impact of standards in the different projects, because they could be, even if not forced, at least led towards specific standardization efforts, and trying to avoid replication of efforts in many projects that we are doing exactly the same in terms of looking at the standards, influencing the standards. If we were a bunch of projects together looking in the same direction, it will be a much stronger process for us, I think. So I think but this requires, of course, political engagement and a change of rules in Europe that I believe is not very easy to achieve. So let's see. But if not, I see that that this is going on over many years and is not improving as we thought it could be. So that's my main conclusion, I would say.
Thank you, Thomas. Yeah, I agree with the suggestion of having maybe a more built-in process for standardization across cluster projects, for example, to be able to not only create synergies and know what other people in the ecosystem are doing, but also to see and give each other advice on these things with projects that maybe have a little bit more experience or have standardization experts in their consortium, as we said earlier. So I think I agree. That's very, very important. Anyone else have any concluding remarks on this? Otherwise, we'll close. Okay. Well, thank you all very much for being here, for this opportunity to discuss standardization, but also see what the achievements have been of all the different projects. And we got to know FIWARE as well, which is great. I think if I can give us advice for the future, maybe we should do these standardization co-creation workshops earlier on in the projects and maybe do more of them. Not just, with a few projects like we did today, but maybe with the whole cluster, for example. This is why we have synergies built into our grant agreements. This is why as we said earlier, standardization shouldn't be a chore. It should be more of an opportunity to then move forward together and make more progress and as much progress as possible. So thank you all very much for being here and for giving us your time. We look forward to hearing more about your projects and the outcomes of and the impact that they will have. Thank you once again, and hopefully see you soon if there will be other opportunities coming up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.